to get started whenever you are, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you, Executive Director. I'm Gabriel Ravel, General Counsel at the Government Operations Agency, and I'm filling in today for Secretary Richardson, who couldn't be here today. Before we get started, first, good morning and welcome to the January 21st Victim Compensation Board meeting. So before we begin with the noticed agenda, I'd like to take a moment to introduce our newest board member, Diana Becton. Member Becton was appointed by Governor Newsom to serve on the Victim Compensation Board on January 5th of this year, and she brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to this role, having spent most of her professional career as a judge, lawyer, and manager. In 2017, she was sworn in as the 25th District Attorney for Contra Costa County, and following this appointment by the Board of Supervisors, she was elected to the position in June 2018. District Attorney Becton served for 22 years as a judge in Contra Costa County, and she is the past president of the National Association of Women Judges and past chair of the State Bar Council on Access and Fairness. A native of California, Board Member Becton is the first woman, the first African American, and the first person of color to serve as Contra Costa District Attorney since the office was established in 1850. I know that Secretary Richardson was very honored to have administered the oath of office to Member Becton just a few minutes ago, and I ask you all to join me in welcoming her to the Victim Compensation Board. So Council, will you please call the roll?
Member Shavaro.
Here.
Member Becton.
Here.
Chair Ravel.
Here. Thank
All
you.
members are present.
Okay, item 1 is the approval of the minutes for the December 17, 2020 board meeting.
Move approval.
Second, any discussion, additions, or corrections? I guess not.
None that I saw.
Great. Council, will you please call the roll?
One moment, Chair, if we could please call for public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there any
No worries.
public comment on this item?
Good morning. We do have a caller, 216-256-7020. Could you please provide your full name?
Ed Little.
And will you be providing public comment today?
Yes, yes, I will. Thank you.
Specifically on the minutes or generally on public comment?
On public comment.
Okay. Any public comment on the minutes?
No.
Hearing none. Member Shavaro.
Aye.
Chair Ravel.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, the next item is public comment. This is the opportunity for the public to comment on items that are not on the agenda. As any items discussed during public comment have not been agendized, the board is not permitted to take any action on these matters at this hearing. For those on the phone, if you previously indicated your desire to offer comments during this agenda item, we will be calling on you by name or phone number. For those participating via Zoom, please raise your hand if you wish to offer comment, and we will acknowledge you and let you know when it is your turn to speak. And we have, I'm sorry, caller, did you have a comment?
Yes. Good morning, Chair and board members. My name is Ed Little with Californians for Safety and Justice. We have a growing statewide network of over 12,000 crime survivors and an organized constituency among 8 million Californians living with past convictions and their families. I come before you today on behalf of Youth Alive, San Francisco DA's office, the Prosecutors Alliance, the State Controller's Office, and Crime Survivors for Safety and Justice. We are currently co-sponsors of a bill from last year, AB 767, that seeks to expand compensation for victims of police violence. We would like to thank Cal VCB for continuing to meet with us and share their questions and concerns with regard to the policy. We are truly grateful for Cal VCB's feedback regarding our recommended policy reforms. The deaths of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Sean Monterosa right here in Vallejo, California, shed a spotlight on the already out of control pandemic of police violence. As we continue to work together to expand the rights of victims of police violence, we would like to make sure that when we are deliberating over this important policy, that we center the faces, the names, the voices, the experiences, and the families of those who were unjustly killed or harmed at the hands of police. Far too often, the trauma that is experienced by these victims and their families are ignored by those who have the power to right the wrong and in some small way make them whole. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Little, for addressing this very important issue and interest in the work of the board and your time.
Hi, is there anyone else on the line for public comment? Seeing none, we will move to item 3, which is the Executive Officer Statement, which will be presented by Executive Officer Linda Gledhill.
Good morning, board members, and Happy New Year. Great to be with you again as we start 2021. First of all, I'd like to also extend my welcome to District Attorney Becton for joining the board. We're delighted to have you, and we look forward from benefiting from your wealth of knowledge, expertise, and experience gained through your outstanding career as a judge and prosecutor. And as you get up to speed, myself and the rest of the CalVCB staff stand ready to assist you in any way that we can. As you may know, we start a new meeting schedule starting today. We'll be meeting once every other month. So our next meeting after today will be March 18th. I also wanted to let you know that as part of our effort to look at cost savings, and in part because of the pandemic, our ways of doing business, as you know, are very different. So we have ended the lease of the boardroom that some of you have been in previously for some of our meetings effective February 1st. This will save us $8,000 a month. And will allow us to think about other ways of doing business in the future. When we do resume board meetings in person, there's a very nice boardroom owned by a different state entity in the same building that we are in, that they have allowed us to look at and use if we need to. And we've already reserved it for all of the meeting dates in 2021, starting in March. So at the time that we are once again, perhaps convening in person, we have a place to meet. But at the same time, we're saving money, not paying rent for a room that we hardly ever use right now. As you heard during public comment, we continue to monitor legislation regarding police violence. You know that this was an issue that we were very involved in the last legislative session, and look forward to continuing to work with our sponsors, the sponsors of that bill, to find to continue to negotiate and find ways to work together. I wanted to let you know that the governor unveiled his proposal for 2021-22, his budget proposal. That's positive for CalVCB. The administration is committed to providing strong general fund support for the foreseeable future. Due to declining revenues in the state restitution fund, we've needed increased support from the general fund. In the current year, we have $23.6 million from the general fund. And in the budget year, the governor's office has proposed $33.1 million in support. We'll be funded for the same number of positions. However, our workload over the last several years has increased without a subsequent increase in positions. So that is something we are considering asking for in the future. All in all, it's good news, and we hope the economy continues to rebound and state revenues remain strong and stable throughout the spring. I'm happy to tell you that today you will be hearing a presentation on the exciting project that we're working on, a redesign of the Cal VCB website. It involves a lot of our staff working with our contractor 10Up. In particular, I want to thank Gretchen Ziegler, who you will hear from, who is the project manager, and all of the staff in our public affairs and outreach, IT, and program divisions who have worked so hard on this project. We have a short timeline. We hope to launch this in the spring. And I really do believe this will be a big step forward in helping us reach the people that we serve, victims, and those who support them. In this age, it's critical that we have a website that's modern, easy to use, and effective. Internally, to update you, we continue to work on ways to boost employee engagement and overcome some of the barriers that we have with everyone working from home. We've held 2 staff meetings recently. One in December featured Secretary Richardson, and we appreciated her taking time out of her busy schedule to talk about her role as chair of the board and her support for Cal VCB. We held another all-staff meeting last week to just review our priorities for the new year. And part of what I'm going to be doing in the next few weeks is meeting with every unit within our organization individually to really learn about what they've been doing. It's been a year since I started, and I did that a year ago in order to learn about what they're doing. And so I'm going to do it now here 1 year later to learn about what they've think about the changes and listen to their concerns and really just have that time that we don't necessarily have with each other when we can't walk around and just chat. So looking forward to doing that. Finally, as you recall, we reconvened the Cal VCB Advisory Committee in November, which had been inactive for several years. The committee is composed of victim service stakeholders that we partner with, and we're looking forward to growing the committee and meeting quarterly in this year, starting in February. So with that, I will thank you and happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Officer Gledhill. It's the example that you gave of the boardroom is a great example of the resourcefulness that at the direction of the governor to find cost savings in our new way of working. So thank you for your efforts in that area. And I'm sorry if you can hear the garbage truck going by in the background here. Are there any questions or comments from the board members?
None.
Okay, we will move to item 4, which is the legislative update that will be presented by Deputy Executive Officer of the Policy, Outreach, and Grants Division, Andrew Lamar.
Good morning. The legislature has just started meeting, as you know, so I have a short legislative update. The deadline for introducing legislation is February 19th, so policy committee hearings won't get going until after that. I know you're aware of legislation that was introduced last summer but did not pass the legislature before it adjourned. That's AB 767, and we expect it to be reintroduced in coming weeks. That's the proposal to compensate victims of police violence. On January 6th, we met with the sponsors of the legislation, a coalition led by Californians for Safety and Justice and the Prosecutors Alliance of California, to provide feedback on the current version of the proposal. It is language they are still working on, but has not yet been introduced as a bill. Since this is still legislation that is taking shape, we'll have to wait and see how it develops. We'll continue to track it closely and provide you with updates as the legislation progresses. As we were last year, we remain committed to working with the sponsors to see if we can find a workable solution. That's all I have for today. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Deputy Lamar. We're definitely looking forward to hearing more about the police violence bill as that issue progresses. Obviously, an issue of great public interest and importance. Are there any questions or comments from the board members for Deputy Lamar?
No.
Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none. Item 5. Item 5 is an update on the efforts to redesign the Cal VCB website, which will be presented by Gretchen Ziegler, Chief of the Public Affairs and Outreach Unit.
Morning, members of the board, and special welcome to Member Becton. As introduced, I'm Gretchen Ziegler, Public Affairs Chief at CalVCB here. And our website is the primary service channel for CalVCB and often the first impression any potential claimant or stakeholder will make in seeking our services. The need for a modernized digital landscape is imperative and even more emphasized in our current pandemic environment. To ensure we meet the needs of any person seeking services within the Crime Victims Network, it is paramount that we undergo a comprehensive web transformation. Our overarching goal is to create a human-centered design that provides a clean, simple, easy-to-use experience. Information should be easy to locate, simple to navigate, and seamless to update. With these goals in mind, CalVCB contracted with website redesign services firm TinUp following the board's approval in August of 2020. Since then, our teams have been diligently working on this effort. As Linda mentioned earlier, launch of the new website is scheduled for May of 2021. I would like to take just a brief moment and recognize the CalVCB staff who have been dedicated to ensuring our success. Mandy Duran is our web content analyst, Kim Keys, our public information officer, Stevie Sanko, our outreach coordinator, and of course, our IT staff, Heidi Smith, information technology services supervisor, Joshua Wiltner, web developer, and of course, their manager, Richard Prussia. Here today is the TinUp team members, Brian Bourne and Melissa Vanderwilt, who will provide a brief update of our work. TinUp has helped state agencies, both large like the DMV and small like the state libraries, reimagine their websites by leveraging user data and research to better serve constituents. I would like to turn the conversation now to TinUp for their update. Thank you.
All right, just a moment. Hello, good morning. Let me share my screen. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Can you see the CalVCB board meeting?
Yes.
Excellent. All right, good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for the opportunity to present today. My name is Melissa Vanderwilt. I am a lead user experience designer and content strategist here at TinUp, and I have had the pleasure of working with the CalVCB team on this project from the start. Today, I will be sharing our work and our process to date, and then answering any questions that you may have. So, back in September, we kicked off the project in earnest. Here at TinUp, one of the first activities that we like to do with new clients is make sure that we're all operating from the same context. And often that means stopping before we really even get started in order to unpack goals. Do they position us to solve the right problems? Are they actionable? Are they measurable? Are they achievable? Fortunately, in the case of CalVCB, we were able to answer in the affirmative across the board, which was wonderful. From the get-go, CalVCB has consistently and passionately advocated for user centricity to be the driving force behind this project, and I think that's evident in the goals provided by them. Striving to serve more than just victims of violent crime, making it easier to find crucial information, and making sure that information is available to be understood by all. These reflect a genuine commitment to user-centered service and have served as the North Star toward which we've steered all of our efforts through discovery and design so far. To that end, we would like to update you on exactly what we've been up to the last few months. Our discovery phase had us very busy from September through November of last year, in which we started by kicking off everything with a half-day virtual workshop to align both of the teams around the project goals, as I mentioned earlier, as well as around user needs and functional requirements. We then inventoried all of the pages and content on the current site and decided their fate, what stays, what goes, what gets consolidated, what needs editing, so that we had a clear picture of the full scope and nature of the content to be accommodated on the new site. And I would like to take a moment to specifically mention CalVCB employee Mandy Duran, who single-handedly and brilliantly spearheaded the inventory and dispossession efforts, which was no small feat, and she did a really excellent job. Once that was completed, we then conducted some baseline user research, gleaning insights from stakeholder interviews, some site user surveys, and customer service call data. Based on the key findings from that user research, we then developed working personas for 4 of our primary audiences, who are victims of violent crime, victims of other crimes or circumstances, victim advocates, and service providers. These profiles outline each persona's primary tasks, pain points, and relevant content and functionality that will later drive decisions around navigation, features and functionality present on the site, and all the content planning that needs to happen. From our audience and revenue practice, we conducted a technical site audit and put together a measurement strategy for monitoring the site's performance over time in order to gauge content efficacy and engagement and to inform its optimization. Finally, we produced some more behind-the-scenes deliverables that inform engineering's early scaffolding efforts, including taxonomies to drive content tagging, content models to identify and define content types and their requisite structures, and finally, foundational architecture, which is a diagram that essentially illustrates the various relationships between content types. So with all of this deep understanding of what was, we could then turn our attention to what will be. And we kicked off the design phase in mid-November, starting with the creation of a new sitemap, which, thanks again to Mandy's and the rest of the team's content efforts with the disposition, is much more streamlined and focused than the current sitemap. In tandem with the sitemap, we also started work on wireframes, which, for those who may not be familiar, are early low fidelity page designs that define what content and features and functionality need to be present, as well as defining just the overall hierarchy of the information. We produced about 16 designs in total with views for both desktop and mobile. Then our visual design team stepped in to guide exploration of a few different aesthetic approaches via style tiles. You can see a bit of one of the style tiles, the one that we actually went with here in this middle image. We use style tiles to gauge interest in a general design direction to then explore fully. So once we had settled on a direction, our designers applied those elements to the approved wireframes, translating the low fidelity designs into fully realized visual design comps, complete with CalVCB brand colors and typography, as well as photography and other graphic design elements. I actually have a sneak peek to show you in just a moment. Currently, we are perched on the cusp of the development and deployment phase, in which our engineers will bring the designs to life. They have been busy the last couple of months, though, putting into place the shell of the new site, starting to scaffold out the underlying structure, figuring out systems logistics, and planning for integrations and content migration. But they're definitely ready to roll up their sleeves and get into the real nuts and bolts of building out the site. So we did want to give you a sneak peek of the visual design direction for the new site. You'll likely notice, first and foremost, the choice of photography used in the header area of the page. And I'd like to talk about this for just a minute. That's a very conscious decision that we all made together. In early design exploration, we realized pretty quickly that there wasn't a lot of imagery that would work well on a site like CalVCB's, where the content is of a more sensitive nature. We wanted to avoid using imagery that would offend or trigger anyone or come off glib or out someone as being on a victim compensation site immediately and obviously. But we also didn't want users to land on a sterile, copy-heavy site, especially when one of our design principles for this project is to provide an empathetic, welcoming, confidence-inspiring experience. So where we landed was on landscape photography of California. Not only is it relevant, because obviously you're in California, and it's aesthetically lovely, but most importantly, it's neutral. So spotted from across the room, this could be any travel or lifestyle site of some kind, and the rest of the design is just as thoughtful and intentional, with brand colors chosen for their calming qualities, for example, and typography chosen for its accessibility, compliance, and readability. So we just wanted to show you the sneak peek. We're very excited to share further and final designs with CalVCB over the next week or so. So in closing, I would like to actually take a moment before we say goodbye and answer any questions to share with the board how genuinely wonderful it has been to work with the CalVCB team. From the very beginning, they have been engaged, invested, willing and able to pitch in however they can, and it's played a big part in the project's success so far. We've really enjoyed the collaboration, and I imagine we'll continue to. They're a great group of folks. That's all we have for you today. thank you again for sharing some of your meeting time with us. And I think we probably have a couple of minutes left for questions if anyone has any.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ziegler and the whole VCB team, as well as the 10UP team. It's obvious that you put a lot of thought into how you're approaching this, and that shows through in the prototype that you just showed. It looks terrific.
We're excited to show you more. Thank you.
Yes. Are there any questions or comments from the board members?
None.
Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none.
All right. Well, thanks again. The board will now convene into closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 11126 sub C3 to discuss numbers 1 through 90 of the Victim Compensation Program. And just a reminder to board members to please turn off your cameras and mute all audio before calling into the conference line. Okay, welcome back, everyone. The board is reconvening into open session under Government Code Section 11126 sub C3. Do I have a motion for numbers 1 through 90 of the Victim Compensation Program?
So moved.
And a second? I'll second. Council, will you please call the roll?
Motion before the board is approval of items 1 through 90 of the Victim Compensation Program. Member Shavaro,
Aye.
Member Becton. Member Becton, if you could please unmute.
Sorry. Aye.
Thank you. Chair Ravel.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And before we move to adjourn, I just want to welcome again our new member, Becton. We are really excited and honored to have you join us. And we're looking forward to working with you on the board here. Is there any other business that needs to come before the board? Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I second.
Council, will you please call the roll?
Member Shavaro,
Aye.
Member Becton,
Aye.
Chair Ravel.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next meeting is scheduled to occur on March 18, 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.